right the way over the other side of the world in California is a lovely lady by the name of Elise Trouw. Have I got that right?
It's Elise Trouw.
Trouw. Could have been Trow, could have been Tro, but it is Tro. Elise, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's about 10 a.m. in California. Is it a beautiful Californian sunrise?
I wasn't awake for the sunrise, but it's a beautiful. So I'm assuming it was also a beautiful sunrise.
Okay, that's cool. Now, a lot of people know you from the stuff which we've been posting on YouTube. You're a multi-instrumentalist that was signed to a record label in 2015. Is that right?
Yeah. So I was signed to that record label, and then I started recording my first album, and like halfway through the recording process, the label and I split, and I ended up releasing the album just on my own independent label.
Now, I'm fascinated by your story. You, as I say, are a multi-instrumentalist, but you started by playing piano at the age of 6 by learning to play My Immortal by Evanescence. That's a hell of a track to practice.
Yeah, I actually never ended up learning that song because I just heard that song and I was inspired to learn piano. And then, of course, when I'm learning piano, it's like single notes and like Mary Had a Little Lamb or whatever. So I never ended up reaching that level quickly enough to play My Immortal, because by the time I would have been able to play it, I like wasn't interested in that song anymore. So it was just kind of the the initial inspiration, but I never actually learned that track.
Oh, what a shame. Now, your vocal style is unique as far as I'm concerned. I haven't heard anybody who sounds like you, or you sound like anybody in particular. Is there anybody who's sort of influenced you in your vocal style?
I don't know. I've only been singing for about 2 or 3 years now. I had a couple instructors. I guess old like jazz recordings inspired me a lot because I played in jazz bands in high school for a couple years, and so I really grew to love the jazz style. And there were singers that would sing with the jazz band, and that style sort of influenced me as well. And I guess I just kind of sing however's comfortable and just whatever I think sounds good with my voice.
I must admit, anybody who can sort of sing "Bed's Too Big Without You" by the Police and Go Into Girl from Ipanema, that is an incredible range of music. I mean, are these pieces of music or things which have been played to you, you picked up yourself, or is this something you sort of maybe picked up from your parents?
My parents aren't really musical in any way. I just kind of started taking lessons on piano, grew to love it, and then started playing drums, grew to love that also. So it's just kind of been a natural interest in music.
Now, you say drums. You started playing drums when you were 10, is that right, with Dave Blackburn?
Yeah. When I was 10, I started taking lessons with Dave in Fallbrook, which is where I grew up.
And this was after playing fake drums on the video game Rock Band. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. That was sort of my inspiration for starting to play drums. But then once I hopped on the real kit, I didn't really play the game anymore because I grew to love the real musicianship and being able to like jam with other kids and stuff.
Now, it's going to be your birthday soon, I guess, because I've worked this out, because on 24th of February 2017, you released the album Unraveling that we mentioned just a little bit earlier on your own label, Goober Records. What was that like? I mean, you did that at college, or university, should I say?
Yeah. You mean the CD release party?
Yes.
Yeah, so I hosted a 18th birthday CD release show at a local college here. I don't go to the college, but they have a nice venue there that I ended up using because I knew a couple of people that introduced me to the bookers and everything there. And I have a couple of friends that go there as well, so it just kind of worked out that way.
I mean, that's fantastic, isn't it? 18th birthday and release of your first album. That's not bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured it could be sort of a party, but also like listen to my music, you know?
That's a good way of getting everybody there, isn't it? You know, come and have a party and listen to my album.
Yeah, it's like if you're not coming for the CD release, it's like at least come celebrate like my birthday.
Now, when you see you on YouTube, you play, and as far as I know, this is true of the album as well. You play bass, guitar, piano, drums, and of course you do all the vocals as well. Which is your favorite instrument out of all of that lot?
I think drums are definitely my favorite instrument. Just like that's the instrument that I've been drawn to. It's the one I've practiced the most and played with other musicians. Like whenever I think of jamming, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna jam on drums. You know, it's sort of my go-to. But in the last couple of years, I've been focusing more on learning about the other instruments and about singing. So my I guess vocals have been a fun progression for me because the just like learning how to improve myself is always a fun adventure.
Mm-hmm. Now, in the end of last year, beginning of this year, you've done these two live looping mashup videos, which are absolutely brilliant. I mean, I've shown them to guys who are professional musicians, blokes who just like music, and friends and other DJs, and all that says exactly the same thing. If that is live, that is brilliant, and it is, of course, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. There's been some like fighting in the Facebook comments, of course, but my sound guy and I always joke that it would be harder to pull it off if it wasn't live, to fake something like that.
Yeah, it is so incredible. I mean, once again, those pieces of music, just going back to Police, Foo Fighters, etc., they are pieces of music which are classics, I guess. But what you do to them is completely change them around. Is that something which you wanted to do?
I guess the first mashup kind of came about naturally because those two songs are The Weird Fishes and The Bed's Too Big Without You are two of my favorite songs, and I knew the chord progression to The Bed's Too Big Without You and I would sing it all the time, and then I was trying to learn the Radiohead progression but was having difficulty changing to the next chord, so I'm like, oh, well, if I just go here, it's easier. Oh, and that's also the chord progression to this song. So I'm like, oh, I like the feeling of the chord shapes in Weird Fishes, but I like how easy it is to play The Bed's Too Big Without You. So that's sort of how that came about. And of course, I had to learn the Radiohead chords as well, obviously, but it just kind of happened that way.
It's brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. But I can't take it away from you. You are also a very, very good songwriter. I mean, most of the stuff on the album, in fact, I think all the stuff on the album was written by you.
Yeah, I had a co-writer on a couple of songs, and a couple of them I wrote by myself, but it's all stemming from myself.
So the big question, do you prefer doing originals or do you prefer doing covers?
I'm currently going to be focusing more on my original music, just so I can promote that more than doing covers. I think covers are always fun just because I like being able to take the song and kind of twist it and make it my own. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I don't really want to be labeled as a cover artist. So I guess, yeah, I mean, they're just very different mindsets to me.
When you sit down to write, to write a new piece of music, what do you prefer using? Is it guitar or keys or laptop, or how do you write?
I like to completely change it up. Like for a long time, I just wrote on keys and then brought it to like arranging and everything on like Logic. But after a while, it kind of got stale. So I'm like, oh, I'll try writing a song from guitar, or I'll start with a drum beat, or I'll make a track on Ableton or whatever, and I'll try to write something over that. So I guess just like I like to approach songwriting from as many angles as I can, just to see like how it's different and how that affects me or affects the process creatively.
When you go into the studio, because I assume when you've got your track and you've written it and you've done all the things you want to do with it, do you go in and work with a producer, and if so, how do you feel about letting go of that song that you've created and giving it over to somebody else?
On the first album, on the album that I released, there was no really official producer. It was me, the co-writer, and the engineer we were working with, kind of all collectively producing it in a way. So it felt very natural in that sense. And I've done other sessions with like songwriters and producers since then on my new stuff that I'm working on, and it's kind of different for each session. Like there's some producers that are kind of, oh, let's go in this direction, but then there's other producers that will kind of just help bring the best out of you. And so I think those sessions are the most productive for me, because it kind of allows me to maintain my my individuality, but expand and refine my sound.
Do you enjoy performing live?
Yeah, live shows are always fun.
Have you had the chance to do much in the way of live work at the moment?
Yeah, in the last couple months, I was playing more frequently. In the end of last year, I guess, I started working with a booking agent, and so he booked a bunch of shows for me in LA and San Diego and along the coast, the West Coast here. And in the last couple months, I haven't been playing a ton of live shows just because I've been so focused on, I guess, yeah, I played at NAMM, I played on Kimmel, and then I played a show in LA. So 3 shows in the last 2 months. So medium amount, I guess.
That's okay. That's okay. How do you find your music is received? Are people, sort of prepared to sort of sit back, relax, and enjoy it? How do you find it?
In the live shows? I guess, yeah, it depends on the audience, because I'm like normally an opener for different bands. So in that case, it's normally a different crowd each time, and yeah, I guess like in different settings, it's just received differently. Like I played at the NAMM show, and of course it's a bunch of musicians and people, so it was a very intense and quiet audience, and so that was nice because they were very focused. But then I'll play like clubs where there's more like lights and stuff going on, and people are having a good time. They're kind of dancing around. So I think both settings work for my music. I'm very flexible with the different settings that I can perform in.
Now, obviously, I'm going to say obviously, but when you perform live, do you go with other musicians or do you do the looping?
As of now, I've been doing looping. I had a band a little while back that I was working with, but then I started using Ableton to do backing tracks, and then I kind of evolved that into the live looping. And so I've only been doing the live looping for the last, like, since the videos I released online. That was kind of my first dive into live looping, and then I also incorporated it in my live show. So I've played like 3 or 4 shows with the live looping, but in the foreseeable future, it's going to be all live looping.
Yeah, and I can remember watching Ed Sheeran on, I think it was Glastonbury, when he walked out on stage, just him and his little guitar, and he performed the entire set with looping, and everybody was going, how does he do that? And it's the same thing, isn't it? It's just so amazing. You start to play, and then you sample it and you edit it, and it's all done live. That's what I can't get over. Do you find that exciting, being able to do that?
It's exciting, and it's definitely also, it makes me like more nervous because it's a different mindset than playing with other musicians. Because if you're playing with other musicians, like the music's kind of just going past you, and if you mess up, you keep going and you figure it out. And then with live looping, if you mess up, you get to hear it played back to you like 50 times. So it's definitely it's a different mindset completely than just being a member in a band. And it's more like methodical in a way. But that's, yeah, it's exciting.
Okay, just a couple of more questions. Hope you don't mind. When you put out those videos that you put out on YouTube, it always seems to be in the same room, which is crammed full of equipment. Is that somewhere in your house or a studio that you rent? Because it just looks like a room in a house, which is just packed full of gear.
Yeah, it's a studio that I'm renting currently down in San Diego. I have a studio space there, and it used to be a radio station, I think, and so it has this black soundproofing on the walls. And I thought I wanted to leave it kind of plain and black like that, but then I shot a video or two and I realized it didn't look that great. So like, okay, I'm gonna decorate it. So that the background that you see in those videos, like I kind of treated it as like set design, you know, and went and decorated it. And of course now it's like used as like storage, but it's like visually appealing storage, you know.
Oh, it's fascinating. I love it. Which brings me on to my next question. Is it true that you have two hobbies? One is photography and the other one's kickboxing.
Yeah, I was doing kickboxing for a while I was in high school, and I ended up I had to stop doing that because I had to get like an ankle surgery. But I'll probably get back into it at some point when I have more time. And then photography, yeah, it's always been. It's not really. I wouldn't call myself professional or anything by any means, but I just like to take pictures of other people and my family members, and just kind of capture different moments with people.
Do you find that doing photography gives you a sort of idea of image and an idea of how things should look when you're performing?
Like, how does it translate, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I definitely think about the visual aspect of both videos and live shows, and how it relates to photography, because, you know, like having depth and lighting and everything, it matters a lot, and the visual aspect is something that I'm interested in because, you know, it's part of the whole experience, especially with like social media and the way that music is consumed today.
Yeah, I was going to ask you once again just about social media. Do you find that it helps a lot? Do you work a lot with social media?
I mostly, yeah, I just kind of use social media as a platform for my music. So I kind of like to think of myself as not really like a YouTube artist or an Instagram musician, but I'm just like a musician who uses these platforms to engage with my fans and release my music.
Okay. Do you have any new products on the way? Can we look forward to either an album or some more singles or something like that in the near future?
Yeah, I'm going to be releasing a new single in about 2 or 3 weeks. It'll be accompanied with a live looping one-shot video. So you'll be able to listen to the studio version and also the live looping version on streaming and iTunes and everything. It's called Line of Sight.
Line of Sight. I'm going to look out for that because I'd love to be able to play that in the show, as well as playing stuff that you've done before. Okay, Elise, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for talking to me. It's coming to the end of our day here, but I know it's the beginning of your day there. I hope you have a lovely day.
Thank you. I hope you have a good night.
Thanks a lot. And we'll keep our eyes open for that track and make sure it gets played here as well. Thank you, Elise.
Cool. Thank you so much. It was good talking to you.
And you. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.